Continuing now on Newsmax Prime, you will recall that President Obama spoke to the UN General Assembly for what is supposed to be the final time earlier this week, and it got us all thinking, what foreign policy accomplishments might this president take away from his time in office? Here now are the top 10. President Obama's swan song at UNGA. That's the UN General Assembly to you and me. Our commander-in-chief visiting with the Iraqi prime minister here. The official line, they're talking about ways to combat ISIS in Mosul. Just some of the headlines you've seen from the other side of the media, that last banner headline describing, quote, accomplishments. Well, let me tell you about some of the accomplishments President Obama can brag about while he's in New York. Let's call it our countdown of Obama's top 10 accomplishments.
I'm picking up your sarcasm.
Well, I should hope so, because I'm laying it on pretty thick.
Number 10, Cairo. President Obama speaks to the Muslim world.
We have the power to make the world we see.
But 2 terror attacks this weekend committed by Islamists. How's that working out for you? Number 9, Obama's reset, or is it Hillary's reset? Remember our president's hot mic moment with Dmitry Medvedev?
My last election, yeah. After my election, I have more flexibility.
Well, since his last election, Vladimir Putin has only gotten stronger and his territory larger, with the addition of Crimea back behind the 21st century version of the Iron Curtain, which also now includes a military base in Syria. Don't worry, we'll talk more about Syria later in the countdown. Number 8, the pivot towards Asia, but in the South China Sea, the expanding Chinese Navy. Number 7, North Korea, but now more nuclear tests and more threats from the curiously coiffed dictator of the DPRK. Number 6, Cuba.
Change is going to happen here, and I think that Raul Castro understands that.
Number 5, the Iran deal. Number 4, snubbing the Israeli prime minister. Number 3, Obama's plan to close Gitmo.
These detainees cannot come to American soil. If the president proceeds with knowingly breaking the law and asking the military to break the law, he will be met with fierce bipartisan opposition here in Congress.
It's not often I agree with Paul Ryan, but I do here. Number 2, Benghazi. Last and least of Obama's so-called accomplishments, Syria and the red line.
A red line for us is we start seeing a whole bunch of chemical weapons moving around or being utilized.
If President Obama inherited Iraq and Afghanistan from President Bush, then Obama's successor, whether it's Hillary or Trump, will inherit Obama's Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Libya, North Africa, and on it goes. For more on all of this, we're pleased to be joined by our political panel. First, Skyping in from Atlanta, the chairman of the Women Vote Trump PAC and the former chairman of the Tea Party Express, Amy Kremer. And from Newsmax, New York, attorney and political commentator Sam Nunberg. Again, thanks to you both for your time here on Newsmax Prime. So I just went through Mr. Obama's top 10 foreign policy accomplishments. Time won't allow us to go back through it all. I'm going to narrow it down to 3 that could present challenges. Iran, Benghazi, North Korea. Amy, of those 3, which will present the biggest challenge for the next president, whomever that may be?
Oh, well, I would say either Iran or North Korea, especially Iran, given that we've given them over $1 billion, I think it was. How much? I can't remember specifically.
It's like the late Carl Sagan used to say, billions and billions in a most surreptitious way. So with that in mind, you think it's going to be Iran?
I do think it's going to be Iran. I mean, they've never been our ally, and I think Obama's played right into their hands, and he's leaving a mess for the next president, which I hope is going to be Donald Trump, that's going to get us out of this, because with Hillary Clinton, it's going to be more of the same.
What about
I think,
Sam?
Katie, that, You know, JD, I think the entire world is going to be a tremendous challenge to the next president. You know, unfortunately, if you look at China, they're extending their territorial ambitions, artificially building these islands, and then you have the Iranian deal, and you know they're really pushing the Shia crescent further across the Middle East. We already know, JD, for a fact that they're not following and abiding by the nuclear deal, and we're essentially paying them ransom. And then Benghazi is more emblematic of the entire ISIS taking over a tremendous amount of region and area in the Middle East and destabilizing it. Along with the refugee problem, you're going to have more terrorists, building up. And the ironic thing is, with ISIS is that Obama likes to say, well, I destroyed Al-Qaeda. ISIS and Al-Qaeda had a bigger break because, Al-Qaeda was a little too liberal for ISIS. And, we have that city in Syria just sitting there, which could be, just taken out in around 30 minutes in Raqqa, where they're organizing these attacks.
Suffice to say, it's a target-rich environment, or should we say a problem-rich environment, for whomever our next commander-in-chief will be. But listen, go ahead.
The Middle East is an inferno, and that is a direct cause of Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama's foreign policy. And so when you look at, I think the number one issue for this election is our national security. Look at what just happened in New York City this past weekend. When people are going to the ballot box, they better be thinking about who is going to keep them secure. Because under Hillary Clinton, she said she would authorize another million refugees settling in this first term. If we were able to vet 99% of those million, that's still another 10,000 Paris, Brussels, San Bernardino, Orlando's. We can't afford that. We need to protect our American soil and the American people and look at what's going on here in our homeland.
And to that point,
and JD,
Amy,
let me just follow up one second here. And, that goes more to the point of we have had H.W. Bush endorsing Hillary Clinton. We have had Robert Gates endorsing Hillary Clinton. Listen, I understand that, Donald Trump, says problematic things. I understand that he wouldn't be the type of president that we've had before in terms of his overall persona and conduct. But the idea that you would have Republicans, and you would have these other national security people such as Michael Chertoff, who, by the way, investigated the Clintons on Whitewater, say that they wholeheartedly endorse Hillary Clinton, and they wholeheartedly then are de facto endorsing the last 8 years of where America has not only become less secure than we were before 9/11, but even worse, we don't have the world stature that we used to.
Well, I'll tell you what we can do, Sam. We will call it the inertia of the establishment. And meanwhile, as Amy just mentioned, the Islamists are on the march right here into our country in terms of domestic terror. Now, to that point, former CIA director and my old congressional colleague, Porter Goss, was here at this anchor desk with me yesterday, and he simply says the Obama administration just does not have its act together.
This administration, I think, has been inconsistent, underprepared, and somewhat off in la-la land, thinking that they are going to find these guys are going to be rational if they try and sit down and bargain with them. They're not rational. These are ideologues.
So, Amy, we hear that Hillary's going to have a third Obama term. Does she take us further into la-la land and put us more at risk?
I think she absolutely does. I have no faith that she would get us out of this mess that we're in at all. When you look at, there's a serious problem here when somebody's father goes to the FBI and tells them that they're concerned about terrorist activity, and the FBI does nothing. When the Orlando bomber was, he was on radar and they did nothing. When you have Madam Secretary won't even utter the words radical Islamist, that tells you everything you need to know right there, JD. We have a serious issue with radical Islam, and this administration and a Clinton administration will not handle it. We would see more of the same. And quite frankly, I don't want to put my family at risk like that. And I think most women and men in this country feel the same.
Yeah, and following up on Amy's point, I mean, and JD, as you recall, and your audience will know, Hillary Clinton has already said that she wants 60,000 plus Syrian refugees coming into this country. We don't know who these people are. She wants, to have open, porous borders as opposed to, securing it with a wall. And she wants to give de facto amnesty to these people. And let's be honest, by the way, she would also give all of them citizenship on day one and have them vote if she could. And the idea that we can't say that we're at war with radical Islam, even just saying we're at war with radical Islam, it goes to the problem that we have in this D.C. mindset. And I just don't understand if we, and that's the thing where I think Donald Trump will be able to make some good points and some hard kill shots on Hillary in that next debate on Monday.
All right, fair enough. Sam Nunberg, Newsmax New York, Amy Kremer tonight from Atlanta. Our thanks to you both. Still to come, new polls indicate some rich folks are leaving the Republicans and going over to Hillary. Can that be right? Let's talk with John Zogby and David